all of you out there that have ever read or watched something, have you ever had a moment to where, like, you block everything out? Like, everything around you just goes blank? For instance, like, when you get so immersed into a story, when you get so immersed into what you're watching or reading, that everything around you just ceases to exist. You hear nothing, you see nothing, the only thing your mind sees and what you're thinking of is what you're currently looking at, and the emotion you feel about what is taking place within that said story. It's rare for me to feel that emotion. Only a few selective stories have done this to me. ReZero, Berserk, Tokyo Ghoul. Few stories have really brought out certain emotions in me that really just elevated the series to a high degree, in my personal opinion. And Omniscient Reader, these chapters that I have read, did just that. It made me blank out. My mind went blank, and I just thought about what I was currently witnessing and the tragedy that was taking place within this story. And let's get into that. What is going on here? Why am I so immersed in this? Why am I singing the praises of Omniscient Reader? Well, this is a series I've been covering for, at this point, a few years now. You probably have seen me talk about it, and you might also know that it's getting an anime. You might not know that, but yeah, it's getting an anime. There was an anime announcement. We don't know when it's coming out. We don't know who's working on it, and I'll talk more about this in a second. But the main point is Omniscient Reader, why the current events are so immersive and so good is because you have our protag of Omniscient Reader facing off against the original protag. Now, for those that are confused, like, maybe this is the first time you've ever, like, heard of Omniscient Reader or watched a video of mine of Omniscient Reader or whatever, basically, RMC here, that is becoming the Demon King, aka a villain, evil, like the villain, the reason why he's in this situation is because he loves everyone around him. For instance, he loved a story so much, and he read it to the end, like 1,000+ or so chapters. He was the only reader, and he read it to the end, that he was given the privilege to be in that story that he loved. That story became reality. And obviously, thanks to that, the characters that were in that story, the themes, the world building, and everything that was in that story that he read became his reality. And so he got to interact with characters that he only read about when he was reading the story. And so, because of this situation, that means that the main character of the said story would also be in the world with our new main character, or the main character. And so, the situation currently taking place within Omniscient Reader with these chapters is that our main characters, the two main characters, so to speak, had to make a critical decision. Someone has to die. One of the main characters have to die. And to put this into complete context, we're talking about a main character, the two main characters that have been a part of the story since chapter 1. And looking at this, there's 221 chapters and many, many more to follow. Many, many, many more to follow, because the novel is complete. But back into the main point, one of the characters has to die. And obviously our main character takes up the mantle to sacrifice himself for the main character of the original story. And so it's a very thought-provoking moment, very meta, and there's just a lot of stuff that these chapters do that bring out so much emotion within me. And when I start to get emotional and I start to think of just like I get anxiety, depression, happiness, sadness, whatever when I'm reading something, you know the author is working magic with their pen. They are doing a good job. They're doing what an author should do. It's rare for that to happen, but when it does, oh my goodness, you are going to have some of the best moments, at least of that entire day, or for a while. And that's exactly the emotion I felt while reading this. Now, there's a few things to also state about this, okay? Despite whatever happens after chapter 217, 220, etc., whatever may happen in the future, even if theoretically the sacrifice of the main male character, he comes back somehow, it doesn't disregard what's going on within this story, because those emotions I felt and the theme of immersion that is able to block out any potential, like, oh, you know, he might be a-okay, or he's the main character, he might not die. When you can completely block that out and just only think of the ongoing events of the story, that just shows you the level of writing that the author is good at. They know what they're doing. And I think the reason why you're able to shift away certain things of, like, expectations is because of the meta level of writing that the series actually has. And let's get into that one. Omniscient Reader is a story within a story. And our main character is kind of like an outsider that, you know, the story he loved has come to life, and so he's an outsider viewing it. But we, as the audience, are also in a similar position, looking at his story and the story within that. And you have it to where it's clear with the way the author does certain things with the story, to the arcs and all that, that there's some meta level of understanding, that the story knows what it's doing. We're able to see intricacies with certain plot threads or characters do things that could only be accomplished for us being aware of the fourth wall and not, you know, being actually within the story. And I think that's what makes the series super unique. There is a lot of uniqueness with an Omniscient Reader that I think is just, you don't see often. You don't really see in a lot of different literature, and I think that's what makes this truly unique. The only series that this kind of reminds me of, and the only thing that's ever kind of slightly did something similar, is the Inkheart series. I don't know how many people, you know, watched or read Inkheart, Inkspell, and Ink Death. It was a trilogy book series. It's, at this point, been forgotten to time. It's a very old book series from, like, the early 2000s. But, basically, that was the last time I saw a story kind of do some concepts like this. But I'm going to be honest, I think Omniscient Reader has really just stepped it up and done a much better job than that actual concept. So let's back up for a second from the webcomic and let's talk about a few things, okay? Let's talk about the anime for a second. So FYI, if you're unaware, Omniscient Reader is getting an anime. And as I said earlier on in the video, we don't know when it's going to air, we don't know who's working on it, etc., etc. But that doesn't change the fact. I'm going to say, if Omniscient Reader gets an actual good anime, please, 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 please let this get a good anime. I beg of thee, let this get a good anime that properly adapts Omniscient Reader. Because if it does properly adapt Omniscient Reader, I'm just going to say it. We will have an anime defining the 2020s. Like, we've already had a few, like Frieren and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. But if Omniscient Reader gets an actual anime that is, you know, actually it deserves a good anime adaptation, full-blown good anime adaptation, and consistent anime adaptations. Because there's enough content not just for 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 to 5 potentially. Even more than that, maybe. And here's the thing. Here's the real kicker. The story's complete. The novels are done. Like, obviously the webcomic is still coming out, but the novels are done, and the webcomic is following the novels. And I have, to this very day, have never heard complaints about Omniscient Reader's ending. Like, in terms of, like, the novels. I have never seen anyone complain. The only thing I've ever heard is praise. Absolute praise to Omniscient Reader. And that makes me happy. Because there's so many endings with so many recent series that just feel like dog water. They're not good. And the fact I can breathe a sigh of relief and know that Omniscient Reader will have a good ending, or at least acceptable ending, that makes me very happy. And it'll probably elevate my love for the series even more than it already is, once the ending eventually comes around. But getting back into the anime discussion, if the anime is good, like, it's not just average, but actually good, we will have, like I said, an anime that will define the 2020s. I can see Omniscient Reader becoming the next big thing, if given love. Because it has a lot of aspects that would just make a home run within the anime and manga community. Great art, great story, great character progression, great development, great action, great designs, like, just everything's working for it. And so, I truly hope, I really hope, that whoever's working on this series, it's a good team. Please, Webtoon. Please, animation staff. Please give this series love. Please do. Because I want to see this series successful. It could blow everything out of the water. It could become way beyond anything that we have seen from a webcomic if done right. And I hope it is. But with that being said, though, I wanted a fanboy about Omniscient Reader, because, man, what a fantastic read. I just caught up again, and my goodness, if you're If you're not reading Omniscient Reader, what you doing? Just read the series. It's too good, man. It's so good. So if you are interested in reading it, I will leave a link in the description, so check it out for yourself. But thank you so much for watching. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.